How's it going, everybody? Thank you very much. I always appreciate you. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to the second classic horror movie review of October 2024. This is my review of the classic black and white horror film from 1942, The Ghost of Frankenstein, directed by Earl C. Kenton. This is the fourth film in the classic Universal Monster series. This fourth entry in the series marks the first time that the great Boris Karloff would not come back to play the role of the Frankenstein monster, the role that he made so famous in the original 1931 classic. And he was so great in that film, as well as its sequel, The Bride of Frankenstein, and then the third film in the series, Son of Frankenstein. But here in this fourth one, we got the great Lon Chaney Jr., who was fresh off the heels of playing Larry Talbot in the 1941 classic, The Wolfman, which is one of my all-time favorite films, one of my all-time favorite Universal monster movies. And I love Lon Chaney Jr. I think he's great as the Wolfman. I think he was great in Of Mice and Men. And yeah, he's just a great actor all around. Spider Baby. And yeah, I really love Lon Chaney Jr., but as the Frankenstein monster, I don't think it's his finest hour. I think he's serviceable. I think he does okay. But watching him as the Frankenstein monster, you still kind of wish you had Boris Karloff back in the makeup because Boris Karloff was perfect as the Frankenstein monster. I'm sure it wasn't Lon Chaney Jr.'s fault though. By the time the fourth film came around, I don't think that Boris Karloff was interested in playing the part of the monster anymore. Once again, you got Bela Lugosi returning as Igor from the third film, Son of Frankenstein, the character that has a broken neck, and so because of that, they can't kill him again. I guess they can't hang him again because he's already been hung once. Also in the film is Sir Cedric Hardwicke as Ludwig Frankenstein, one of the sons of the original Dr. Frankenstein, who's supposed to be the brother of Basil Rathbone's character from the third film. You also have Lionel Atwill as Dr. Boehmer, a colleague to Ludwig Frankenstein in the film. You also have Evelyn Ankers, who played the role of Gwen in The Wolfman, but here she plays a different role, the role of Elsa. You also have Ralph Bellamy as a town prosecutor who was also in The Wolfman in a different role. At the very beginning of the film, we see the townspeople in a meeting where they're talking about the monster and they're talking about Igor and kind of a little bit about the events, the end of the last film, kind of catching up the audience on how the last film ended and all that. And so, yeah, you see them kind of in an uproar and they decide they want to go back to the old ruins of the castle to make sure that the monster is dead and make sure that Igor is dead because they know that Igor is still around since that guy just won't die. And so they go back to the castle with their pitchforks and, their torches. They try to blow it up one more time, what's left of it, with some dynamite and stuff. And they blow it up pretty good, but unfortunately, they end up kind of bringing the monster and Igor back because the monster was in the sulfur pit, all like petrified and stuff, and they just kind of dislodge him and free him. Igor and the monster go to the town village so that Igor can ask around all the locals to find out where Ludwig resides, and while he's doing that, the monster kind of gets away from him and stumbles upon a little girl with a ball who loses her ball on the roof. And so the monster gets quite taken with the little girl, and anyone who's seen the first film knows that when he's around little kids, you should be worried because the kids don't always survive the monster's presence. And so he picks up the little girl and goes straight up to the roof to get the ball. And then all the townspeople notice and get scared because they see the monster, and so they know that, the little girl might be in trouble. A guy even goes up there to help out, but the monster just basically smacks him off the roof. This leads to the monster's capture where they have him in chains and shackles, and then we see the monster in a courthouse where they have like this little like hearing basically where they're trying to sentence the monster, but doesn't go very well because of course the monster is going to bust those chains open. Igor and the monster show up at Dr. Ludwig Frankenstein's home, much to Ludwig's surprise, and Igor tries to blackmail Ludwig into giving the monster his strength back so that he's 100% whole again. But of course, Ludwig wants nothing to do with that or his father's research or what his brother tried to do. He wants to make a name for himself in honest medicine, but there is still a bit of that Frankenstein madness left in him. Then pretty soon after this, we see a scene where Ludwig is in bed trying to sleep and he's visited by the ghost of his late father, Dr. Frankenstein. And he's basically trying to fight the whole notion of Igor's ideas, but the ghost of his father is telling him, you can still succeed where I failed as long as you can fix the mistakes that I made, because where the original Dr. Frankenstein went wrong, of course, is the brain that went into the monster. There is also a scene where one of Dr. Ludwig Frankenstein's colleagues, Dr. Kettering, is murdered by the monster, and so when it comes time for Dr. Ludwig to decide what he's going to do, if he's going to give the monster a different brain, he decides that he's going to use the brain of his colleague that was murdered. There is a scene where Igor has a conversation with Dr. Ludwig's colleague, Dr. Boehmer, where he tries to get him to make sure that the brain that's put into the monster isn't Dr. Kettering's, but Igor's brain, because he wants to be inside that body of that hulking giant monster. And so, he ultimately just wants to live forever. You have a pretty nice moment in the film that I really like where Evelyn Anker's character Elsa is looking through diary. She stumbles upon the diary of Dr. Frankenstein, the original Dr. Frankenstein from the first film, where we start to see in the pages of this book, of the diary, flashes, and basically you see glimpses of images of the original Frankenstein movie and the events of that film, and you see it play out on the pages, and it's like a short little montage as she reads the events of that film. You see images of that film, and basically you get a little recap of that first movie. I really enjoy the music score in this movie, even though the movie doesn't have a lot of its own original music. They kind of recycle a lot of the same music cues from 1941's The Wolfman, but it doesn't really bother me because I love the music score in that film. And so to have a lot of those same themes pop up in other Universal monster movies kind of makes me feel like this world is just one big interconnected monster universe. Even though these are old black and white monster movies, the monsters still look pretty amazing to this day in terms of the look and the makeup, which was done by the great Jack Pierce, who worked on these movies going back to the first Dracula in 1931. Also did the design and the makeup for the Frankenstein monster in the first Frankenstein, and did the Wolfman and so on. And so yeah, once again, his artistry is on display here, and it looks awesome. There is a lot going on in that finale. As a matter of fact, so much goes on to the point where they put themselves in a corner, and then like the movie that follows after this kind of has to walk things back because they write themselves into a corner in a way where it's hard for them to recover from how they end it, but they end up like ignoring it in the next movie. As much as I enjoy this movie, I don't think it's on par with the first three films in the series. The first three Frankenstein movies are basically perfect, but this fourth film definitely has some, chinks in the armor. So, I'm going to give this one 3 stars. I have the original 8 films of the Frankenstein series on this DVD set, which I show off whenever I talk about one of these movies. And so, yeah, this has all the movies from the first film from 1931 all the way to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And I do plan on getting into all of them. And as you can see there, all of the 8 films are listed. So this is a thing that I really cherish. If you want to find this on your own, it's called the Frankenstein Complete Legacy Collection, as you can see there. And yeah, pretty awesome. So yeah, 1942's The Ghost of Frankenstein. If you're interested, check it out for yourself. Thank you all very much for watching this classic horror movie review. I very much appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, if you're into movies, if you're into this kind of thing, hit the bell, become a subscriber. Please don't forget to comment, share, like. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for your support. I always appreciate it. Look out for the next classic horror movie review. Everybody take care of each other. Peace out. Till next time. God bless.